Hi there, it's Jim Hawke from Team Hawke Realty. I want to talk a little bit about designated representation and signing contracts within a real estate company as of December 1st, 2023. I just made a couple of videos in regards to self-represented parties, and now I want to make this video talking a little bit about brokerage representation and designated representation. So basically, in the new way of doing real estate, we've always signed buyer representation agreements. So we get together with a buyer, if we're going to take them out and show them properties, it gives us an opportunity to find out exactly what the buyer is looking for, where they want to be, how much they want to spend, and how we can best provide services for them. It also outlines what they need to do for us as well. So they need to inform us if they've seen a property that maybe privately, or if they see a property that it's just hit the market and we haven't noticed it yet. It's always good that we work together to try and accomplish what your goals would be, and that would be to purchase a property. So just kind of going into it. So brokerage representation, the brokerage and all of its agents represent you. So everyone within a company would represent you as the buyer and must promote and protect your best interests. But one or more of the real estate agents will be your primary contact. So for instance, if you designated me as a designated representative for you purchasing a property, we would sign a contract. I would be your designated representative, and then we would work together to find you the property. In some cases, a lot of people are looking at signing two people up as designated representatives. That way it allows, if I'm away, if I'm tied up with another another client, and you wanted to go out and look at a property, that would give somebody else in the office the opportunity to go out and take you through that property and help represent you in that looking at that property. So that's one of the things that we're doing. It gives us the opportunity to provide you with referrals. If you need a lawyer, if you need a furnace contractor, if you need a home inspector, just trying to think of anything else. There's always little things where people sometimes need referrals, and we can provide those referrals if we're working with you as a client. And that's basically what we're talking about right now. One of the brokerages represented is your designated representative. The agent represents you and must promote and protect your best interests. The brokerage and all of its agents are required to treat you impartially and objectively. An important aspect of designated representation is that it reduces the likelihood of multiple representation. And so talking about multiple representation, in the past, every listing that came into a real estate company was the ownership of the real estate company itself. So everybody that worked within that company was an agent for that particular seller. So if a buyer signed a contract as a buyer representative from a company A, and they went and put an offer in on a listing from Company A at that time was in multiple representation with both the buyer and the seller. So with this new designated representation, what it's allowing us to do is it's allowing the buyer to be represented by, say, myself, Jim Hawke from Team Hawke Realty, and the seller, to be represented by another agent within my office, which would be designated agent for the seller. So I would be representing the buyer in the transaction. The other agent would be representing the seller in the transaction, and it would be much more impartial and much better in my opinion, much better for both buyers and sellers. I think this is probably one of the nicest changes I've seen in this new TRESA form. I think it's great for buyers and sellers. But there are things that we have to outline. We have to outline what our services are. There are no set standard of services. Every agent is going to provide a different set of services for you. And we can talk more about that. There's just so many different services that could be involved in this transaction. You could just say, just show me houses. You can say, just do offers for me. We can nail it right down to exactly what you want and how you want things dealt with. Payment on any contract, there's always the payment and there is no standard set of payments. So, we can talk about the payment structure. In a typical real estate transaction, the seller pays through the listing agreement, so the buyer doesn't pay any real estate commissions. But there are transactions where the buyer will pay a real estate commission and the seller may not be entitled to. So, and that's very rare. I've been involved in those transactions where I'm representing a buyer. The buyer is my client and the property may not be listed. The buyer wants me to pursue this property and reach out to the people and make sure that that they'll sell, and then we negotiate a price. And the buyer always negotiates a price understanding that they are going to be responsible for whatever fee we've negotiated prior to the offer being drafted up and me going out looking for that property. So payment. So your agreement needs to clearly state the amount you agree to pay the brokerage and how it will be calculated, how the amount you agree will change if the seller agrees to cover some of the commissions. So an example, if we signed the buyer representation agreement and I was a designated representative, we said the commissions were going to be 2.5% commissions. The seller has their property listed at 5%, 2.5% going to the cooperating broker, which would be the designated representative. Then that 2.5% would cover what we've negotiated in our buyer representation agreement. So there'd be no fees associated with that at all. And how the amount you agree to pay might change if consent to double multiple representation. So again, there are still going to be situations where, as an agent, you may make an offer, maybe have a buyer representation agreement with me where I'm the designated representative. I may have a listing that I'm the designated representative, and you may want to make an offer through me on my listing, which is going to create multiple representation, which will work the same as it has in the past. Just everybody has to, there's a few more forms that we have to sign just to make sure everybody has a clear understanding of who's representing who and how things are gonna go down so that everybody's being treated fairly and openly. We have to have termination provisions in our agreements. There's opportunities to change. If you want to change your designated representative within a brokerage, you're allowed to do that. You just have to sign paperwork to do that. So if you feel someone's, not working in their best interest in finding you the property that you want, or we're not working hard enough or not available, I hear these things where people, call me and say, I've tried to get a hold of, a particular person. I've called them 3 times and never call me back, and I don't want this anymore. So if you decide you want to change that representation to another representative within the office, you're more than welcome to do that. It has to have an expiry date, so there's the definitive time from when you start the contract to when you finish the contract, and it also has to have a holdover clause, which just basically means if, as an agent, they take you out and show you a property and you wait until after your expiration date and go back and purchase that property privately, then you are going to be openly responsible for commissions to that real estate agent. So I think that gives us a really clear understanding of designated representation and the changes in that. If you have any questions, please feel free to call myself or anybody in my office, 705-527-7877. Thank you.